All right, how's everybody doing? Soprano review. Before I begin, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Ratchet Clothing. They are a clothing company out of the UK. They sell men, women's, and children's clothing, various prints, tie-dye, and other prints as well. I'll put a link down below. Check them out. So we're reviewing The Sopranos Season 1, Episode 8. The episode starts off with Christopher, who's having nightmares of this guy, Emil Kalar. And if you remember from Episode 1, he wound up killing this guy in that episode. Meanwhile, the Soprano crew is at a wedding for this guy named Larry Boy, his daughter. He got information that a pending indictment is coming down on them, and they all panicked. They didn't know if they wanted to go on the lam or they weren't going to go on the lam, but they decided that they all should go home and clean up any evidence that the law enforcement may find. But in an unrealistic scene, this guy Pussy goes over to the bride and takes his envelope back. That would never happen in real life. It's a disrespect and insult. I just found that overboard. So Christopher in the next scene is having writer's block. He's writing some kind of movie script, and he's also having trouble with his computer. He calls his girlfriend Adriana over. He wants her to look at what he got written down, which was only a couple of lines. And he begins to tell her that a cousin of his named Gregory, his girlfriend Amy, works for Tarantino. Obviously that's Quentin Tarantino. And he said that she told him mob stories always hot, and he tells her I could make my mark. I wrote that Christopher was definitely ahead of his time as far as YouTube goes. He would have been on a podcast today with YouTube. So Dr. Melfi, while having a Sunday dinner with her family, blurts out that one of her patients may or may not be in the mob, and that starts a whole family discussion. The ex-husband starts knocking, obviously, Tony Soprano, but he don't know he's talking about Tony Soprano, and she gets insulted and starts defending him. So now Christopher is in a local bakery. They sent him for some pastries, and the counterman is ignoring him. He's letting people skip the line, and he's being disrespectful. When he confronts the guy about it, the guy tells him go fuck himself. In turn, Christopher pulls out a pistol. He tells the guy to fill up a pastry box. The guy does. The guy's shitting in his pants. And when he goes to hand him the box, he winds up shooting the guy in the foot. And he's obviously upset about his name not being in an article in reference to the upcoming indictments. I have to be honest with you, whether you're an associate or you're a member of that life, publicity is something that you do not want. So in the next scene, in a ruse to get Livia out of her apartment, Tony sends Carmela to take her to lunch. She eventually gets her out, and he goes in there with a duffel bag full of evidence that he don't want law enforcement to find, and he hides it in his mother's closet. In the next scene, he's in therapy with Dr. Melfi, and he tells her that he might be going on a vacation. She fully understands what he's talking about, and she says to him, so if you suddenly stop coming to your appointments, I'll assume that you're on vacation, and I should wait to be contacted. He replies, that would be a good assumption. So Paulie Walnuts visits Christopher at his apartment. He's trying to get him to come out. And Christopher's going on and on and on about his status in life. And in turn, Paulie Walnuts tells him the following. He says, I was born, I grew up, spent a few years in the army, a few more in the can, and here I am, a half a wise guy. I had heard this expression used a lot. To be honest with you, I never understood the expression. How could you be half a wise guy? You either are a wise guy or you're. In the next scene, he's having a discussion with this guy Pussy, and he tells him about his dream with this guy Emil. And Pussy turns around and tells him that sometimes victims come back to haunt people that are responsible for their death. So Christopher turns around and tells him that he thinks the guy's coming to warn him about some upcoming danger. Next, I wrote, a baffled Pussy asks him the following question. Can I ask you a question? Why the fuck would he want to tell you you're in danger considering you put a moonroof in the back of his head? So that's kind of typical talk. Pretty accurate. Next, Christopher and this other associate, George, are digging up the guy's body. I don't know why they're going to move it if it's already buried. and no one knows where it is. I don't know why they're digging it up. And they're doing it in broad daylight. This would never be done. Next, he's seen Christopher pulling up late to pick up Tony Soprano, who's obviously pissed off. And he gets in the car and cracks him in the head. 1, for the bakery incident, and 2, because he was digging up the body. So he's pissed off with everything that's going on, with the indictments and all of that. So Christopher, playing on his sympathy, starts moaning and groaning about how bad his life is. This Tony Soprano obviously has a soft spot for him, and he forgets about it. So the FBI comes knocking on Tony Soprano's door. They obviously have a search warrant. They want to search the house. While they're searching the house, one of the agents goes in the kitchen and breaks a glass bowl. Tony Soprano finds out that the agent that broke the bowl, his last name is Grasso, and that he's Italian, and he turns around and tells the agent, "Ti faccio culo così." Basically, he's telling him what he would do to his ass, or how he would want to open his ass up. Later that night, at the dinner table, Tony Soprano's having a discussion with his family about the discrimination of Italian Americans in this country. At one point, his son suggests that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and Tony Soprano corrects him. Antonio Meucci invented the telephone, and he got robbed, and everybody knows that. So Meadow chimes in and asks Tony who invented the mafia. Naturally, he avoids this question, and he continues to talk about other famous Italians. So back at therapy, Dr. Melfi insults him by asking him for the money when he missed one of his sessions, and he equates her to a call girl. Before storming out of her office, he starts to toss $100 bills at her and tells her to stick it up her ass. Tony Soprano's mother is with his Uncle Junior. As I predicted, she tells the uncle that he's seen a psychiatrist. And Junior's puzzled by this whole thing, and he keeps questioning about the psychiatrist, and he's saying, "Tony, psychiatrist," he's dumbfounded. In the final scene, Christopher finds out that his name is now mentioned in one article, and they show you him going over to a newspaper stand, and he buys all the newspapers. So basically, this episode really had to do with Christopher wanting some kind of recognition about being in the street, and he was finally happy now that his name was mentioned. And as I wrote, he felt he made the big time. Obviously not. I hope you enjoyed the review. Enjoy the rest of your night. Ciao for now.